Welcome to the Kingman Unified School District Podcast, where we talk all things KUSD. I'm your host, Claire Whitley. KUSD Podcast is a podcast for parents, students, staff in the Greater Kingman Area. On this podcast, we're going to talk about upcoming events, school board meetings, things to see, and any news related to our schools. This episode, we're talking about COVID data, a board meeting summary, history, and upcoming dates to remember. I'm also introducing a new segment to the show called Coffee Talks, where I sit down to talk with our district administrators. For this pilot issue, I sat down with Superintendent Dr. Gretchen Dorner, so look forward to that. At the school board meeting November 10th, Finance Director Aaron Sherman brought the attention of the board to a lawsuit against several counties that might affect KUSD. Transwestern Pipeline sued several counties over the valuation of one of their pipelines and has officially won that lawsuit. Counties and therefore districts are now having to pay back taxes to the company. While KUSD is ready to make that $600,000 payment, Sherman did say that there is legislation being proposed in Yavapai County that may make it so there isn't that hit to the district's funding. At the recommendation of lawyers, KUSD is in the process of waiting to see what happens with that legislation. Though it wasn't discussed at the meeting, the school board election results are in. Roger Jacks and Beth Weiser are set to be sworn into their 4-year terms in January. They will be joining board members Charles Lucero, Jen Shumway, and Carol Young. The board also expressed their immense gratitude for all of those who donated their time, funds, and goods. So from all of us here at KUSD, thank you for your support. New data is being released from the Arizona Department of Health and being reported by schools within our district regarding COVID numbers. There have been 8 reported student cases at schools across 5 separate campuses, all of which have originated outside of school. These cases were reported the first 2 weeks of November, and 2 support staff have also tested positive since September 8th. Parents, students, and staff of those relevant schools were notified in accordance with the district's procedures. Dr. Dorner elaborated on those procedures in the community letter dated November 5th. The numbers did climb and were continuing to climb this week. At this time, administrators would like to continue with all students on campus next week and transition to an AB starting the week of Thanksgiving, pending the expected data. If the community cases significantly decrease and our school numbers remain under control, this can always be reassessed. It does appear that an AB schedule is in the near future. Starting Thanksgiving week and running through the last 3 weeks of the semester seems the least disruptive while remaining safe. Starting the week of Thanksgiving gives KUSD families and employees time to make arrangements as needed. Because the week of November 23rd through 25th is a 3-day week, Monday will be scheduled as the A day, Tuesday will be scheduled as the B day, and Wednesday would be scheduled as the second at-home day for all students. This way, the A group doesn't have 2 days in class while the B group has 1 day. Our website hosts any recent updates as well as notifies family and staff of the current learning model, so check in regularly there for the most up-to-date information. I also want to take a moment now to recognize and appreciate our armed forces and our veterans. I'm a few days behind Veterans Day, but I'd still like to thank all those in our school district and our community who have served, so thank you so much. Last month, I started talking about KUSD history. We covered the very beginnings of education in Mojave County in the 19th century, so let's continue from that point. Arizona achieved statehood in 1912, which was 5 years before the first county high school was built at 1st Street and Oak. Mojave County Union High School gave birth to the Mojave Union High School District, number 30, around 1917. A monumental landmark in KUSD history occurred during the year 1929. This was the creation of Kingman's first grammar school, later named Palo Christi Elementary School, on Maple Street. The property where it is located was sold to the district for $10,500, and construction began in 1928. By January of 1929, the building was ready to host its first students. Palo Christi was later placed on the National Historical Register and still stands in its original location on the hill on Maple Street. In 1936, the first gymnasium for Mojave County Union High School was built, and it would also later be listed on the National Register for Historic Buildings. The building is still in use today as it hosts the Club for Youth. From 1936 through the early 1970s, a few changes were made, including removing the high school students from the building on 1st and Oak. The Mojave Museum archives didn't have exact dates for when this happened, as far as I could find, but I do know that there were no high schoolers in the building on 1st Street by 1973. Next month, we're going to talk about the year 1973 and a couple of tragedies that happened and what those meant for Kingman Unified School District. For now, we'll bring it back to the present with a varsity sports update. Fall sports are drawing to a close going into November. Volleyball season has officially ended with the Volunteers standing at 5-10 overall and the Bulldogs stand at 1-12. The last football games of the regular season take place November 13th. The Bulldogs will be traveling to Yuma Catholic and the Vols are on the road against Flagstaff. The Bulldogs' current standing is 2-3 and the Volunteers currently sit at 3-3 overall. Winter sports have also officially started, so that means we'll be having updates for basketball, wrestling, and soccer. The first Lee Williams boys basketball game will be against Cactus November 24th at home, while the Lady Vols will be traveling to Cactus November 24th. The Lady Vols' first home game will be December 1st against Yuma. The Bulldogs basketball team starts on the road against Northland Prep, but then they'll be home December 4th against North Point Prep. Meanwhile, the Lady Bulldogs will be hosting Northland Prep November 23rd, and also will be welcoming North Point Prep December 4th. November 30th marks the first soccer games of the season. The Volunteers will host the Bulldogs on the pitch, while the Lady Bulldogs will host the Lady Vols. There currently are not matches listed for Kingman Wrestling, and the Vols only have a listing for January 6th. We're doing a new segment starting this month that I'm calling Coffee Talks. The goal is to sit down with administrators and chat with them about the current state of KUSD, talk to them a little bit about themselves, maybe how they are outside of working here, and ask them questions that are on the minds of people within our district. So for the launch of this Coffee Talks, I'm sitting down with Superintendent Dr. Gretchen Dorner. Dr. Dorner isn't a coffee person, so maybe it would have been more apt to call this first segment Tea Talks. Dr. Dorner, how are you today?
Well, hi, Claire. I'm doing really well today. It's a beautiful Friday. Happy to have it a little warmer than it was earlier in the week. I know we had some students on inside for cold weather, which is always fun for them and for the principals, but we're back to warm weather. We're over halfway through the semester. We're excited to have all of our kids on campus.
I really was hoping that you could just give us your elevator speech about yourself, because I know a lot of people in the community, they see you as a figurehead. Who are you as not necessarily a superintendent, but like at home? Like, what is like one of your favorite things that you do? What's something human about you?
Well, my elevator speech about myself is that I'm a Kingman person. I was born in Yuma, but I have been in Kingman since 1976. This is my home. And I've been a student in Kingman Unified School District and worked in Kingman Unified School District since 1976, so it does define who I am generally, but there is another side of me. I do have 3 children that are grown and married and having their own children, so I have a daughter in Texas with 3 babies, and I have a daughter in Scottsdale with 2 and a son in Ahwatukee with 1 on the way. So I would say outside of Kingman Unified School District, I am Nana. Nana Gretchen, my oldest granddaughter, calls me, and if I find time away from work, that's where you'll see me, is on a plane to Texas or in a car on the way to Scottsdale so I can hang out with those precious little ones.
Aww. What was the first reaction you got when your eldest granddaughter was born?
It was such an exciting moment. Her name is Alice, and she's in kindergarten. We're super excited about Alice being in kindergarten. And I happened to be present when she joined us in the world. And I think just awe-inspiring would be the description. Anybody who has joined the ranks of grandparent knows that it's wonderful having your own children. And it's described as even extra, as they call it these days, when you see the grandchildren, and that's how it felt. It felt extra.
So we're going to segue a little bit. I did bring questions for you, so be scared. These are some of the hardest questions that I've ever had to ask anyone.
I've had some pretty tough ones the last 8 months, Miss Claire,
that's fair. That is fair.
We'll see if I can handle these.
Let me just pull up the first one I've got for you. So your first question is coming from Camry and Violet, and they want to know what you're doing today.
Oh, Camry and Violet, I am at the district office with one of my favorite people in the IT department, Miss Claire, having a fantastic conversation about life. And actually, when we are done here, I'll wrap up work for the day, because we do work on Fridays at the district office. My son in Phoenix and my daughter, they're both in the Phoenix area. I say Scottsdale and Ahwatukee, but the Phoenix area. They are really hoping that Nana can come down for Halloween, because there won't be trick-or-treating. So to have, safe, fun Halloween, we might go down and hang out with them at the house. Good question.
All right, we've got one from Raylan. What movie do you watch over and over and over?
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I love movies, and I probably should have mentioned that in the Who Am I outside of KUSD section. Movies, that they happen to be one of my favorite things. One thing I do not like is to watch a movie a second time. Anyone who has raised any children knows they always love a movie, and you have to watch it multiple times. So I will say that the movie I have in the last few years watched the most is Moana. And I will tell you, that was Alice. We talked about Alice. That was her favorite for a period of time. So every time we were together, we had to turn on Moana, and it didn't bother me at all. I love that movie, and I actually watched it on my own recently. And so there you go, Moana. I also love the movie Coco. I've watched that a few times as well.
Those are such good movies.
Yeah.
I love the colors in Coco especially. Like, that is super vibrant.
It is.
So I hate that I can't read this name, but the last name is Bryant. Why don't you visit classes every once in a while?
I actually do visit classes on a regular basis, and I'm glad you asked that. What I wish is that I could be in every school every day, but with 11 campuses and a lot of things going on, it's every couple of weeks that I will get out to any one campus, and then I will visit a few or quite a few classes while I am there. So if we can figure out who this person is by first and last name, I will specifically come to your class next, and I will share a treat with you for asking that wonderful question.
Do you think that we will ever get a snake as a class pet in any of the 4th grade classes? And that's coming from Kinsley.
Well, Kinsley, guess what? I was a teacher at Wallapai School for many years. About 15 years I was there in the 6th grade. And I had a class pet that was a snake. It was corn snake, and it was one of the best class pets I ever had. So maybe I'll give a little nudge and see what we can do about that. It has to be safe, and you have to make sure there are no allergies. There's so many rules these days. But I did find my pet snake was a great class pet.
Did your pet snake have a name? Did it have a class name that you remember?
Corny, because it was a corn snake.
Fair enough.
Well, and then if I could tell just a really quick, funny story. He had several different names because, of course, every student wanted to have his or her own name for the snake. But if you know what snake food is, they usually will eat small rodents. So we tried not to feed the snake in front of the kiddos, but we put the mouse into the snake cage one evening, and the next morning the mouse was still there. They seemed to be cohabitating. And then my students had a campaign, and they wrote letters, and they had signs that said save the mouse. They named the mouse, and we took him out of the cage, and one of the kids took him home to be a pet.
That's awesome.
Isn't that fun?
All right, so we have one from Gibson and Angela. What's your favorite song?
I love music, but there is a song that is my favorite. Bette Midler originally sang it, and it's Wind Beneath My Wings. And the reason it was my favorite song, well, I love the song, came from a movie, Beaches, a long ago movie, but I sang it to my third daughter, Madison. I sang that song. That was a lullaby that I would sing because I loved the song so much. So I just sang it to her every evening as she was falling asleep, and it's always been in my heart. It's one of my favorite songs.
All right, and then we have one from Olivia. Why do you like to be the boss?
Do I like to be the boss would be the question. Why do you like to be Yeah. Well, let's put a good context into that question. I like to be the boss not because I want to boss anyone around or tell anyone what to do, but at every level in my career, I found that, as a teacher, I had a lot of impact on the students in my class, and I really loved it. And then I learned as a school administrator, I could have that impact on, 4, 5, 6, 800 kids and really support people and work with them. So I loved growing the team. And then here at the district office now, I can work with 7,000 kids. So I went from 30 kids to 500 or 600 kids to 7,000 kids and all of the staff. So what I like is being a part of that larger team and working together.
And that kind of really segues nicely into this one from Abby. What does being a teacher feel like? And then I thought this part was really cute. Do you like being a doctor or a teacher more?
What does a teacher feel like? A teacher there's lots of feels when it comes to thinking about what being a teacher feels like. It feels amazing and inspiring, and it's an honor to work with students. It's a blessing to know that you can support kids and that you are helping our society and helping find a future story for the next generation. That's the best part of being a teacher. A teacher also feels tired and exhausted and overwhelmed in the sense that every teacher that I've ever met wants to do so much for so many. There's just not enough hours in the day. It's a wonderful thing to be overwhelmed by that because you're doing it for such good reasons, but it can be tiring and amazing all at once. And do I like being a doctor or a teacher better? Well, I am a doctor teacher. So I'm not a doctor like you would go to visit if you had a sore throat or a tummy ache. I'm a doctor that has studied education and the educational process. So I am still a teacher with the title doctor.
One of the ones that was the most asked out of the first grade class by Connor, Elizabeth, Ella, Ryan, Adeline, Addison, and Calum. What is your favorite sport?
I don't play any sports. I have other skills and talents, but I do love watching sports. And whatever season we're in, I'm going to tell you that's my favorite sport. So I love sitting and watching live baseball. I love going to a baseball game. It's got a slower rhythm, but the excitement and the anticipation is amazing. Wrestling season, I like high school wrestling. That's such an energetic and exciting sport to watch. I love having football on in the background because I love the sounds of the crowd and the energy of that sport. And I enjoy watching swimming. So there really isn't one in particular that I would say is my sport. I just love watching people excel at what they love doing.
One from Jackson, Ashton, Carrie, and Elijah. What is your favorite food?
Anything saucy.
Pasta saucy?
Yeah.
Or like...
Isn't that funny? Sometimes I just have a craving for saucy food. So then I like enchiladas because enchiladas are a saucy food. I love Italian food like lasagna or a good pasta linguine with an Alfredo sauce because it's a saucy food. Or if there's a casserole that's, more of a saucy casserole. I know that sounds a little odd, but that's what I love. I love foods with sauces.
I'm personally I crave crunch food. Yeah. It's very satisfying crunch sometimes.
Yeah. I'm a snack cruncher.
Yes.
Yep. And a meal sauce person. These are difficult questions. You were right. You're making me think over here.
So we got a couple of them from the 4th grade class that kind of deal with school uniforms. So obviously the first question, why do we have to wear school uniforms? But a couple of them were also bringing up questions about, is it possible for us to get like a free dress day, or can we get them made differently or get jackets because it's cold now, right?
We can just talk about school uniforms in general. School uniforms date back now. I would have to look at a calendar and board minutes, but it's got to be 10 years or longer. And we originally started, the Kingman Unified School District Board voted to have school uniforms for several reasons. One was for student identification on campus. So visually you can see these are all the kids who belong on campus. There was a really big safety push in those days. There were some things happening on school campuses that led us to want to have some safety measures. So uniforms, believe it or not, were really originally for safety measures. A second reason was to provide consistency in dress wear, if you will. So if kids aren't worrying about what they're wearing or what they have to buy to fit in, or, who has what kind of shirt, we would reduce the who's looking at who and what they were able to wear to school and focus more on the education than the wardrobe. And we did talk about at the time, and it continues to be a conversation, are we reducing someone's ability to personalize themselves and be an individual? That's always a conversation. I think that's why we didn't go with like leg wear as a uniform, or take away your opportunity to wear the jacket you want to wear on the outside cold weather. As far as customizing them, I think maybe we should look at, what are some current trends, and can our school uniforms look a little different? I would love to have your class give me some suggestions on that. Perhaps have a conversation with the board. Do we need school uniforms again? I'm asked that quite a bit. Because we live in the beautiful United States of America that does have a democratic process, I always encourage students to ask these kinds of questions, get together as a group, have a meeting with me, write a letter to the school board, and express your opinions, and then maybe open a conversation about it.
And then we're going to end on a super fun one, because I've been teasing you with this question since I started. But Raylan, Lily, and Renna, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, What is your favorite color and why?
My favorite color has always been yellow. I have a theory as to why. I'm not sure if it's a correct theory, but way back when I was in, I think about second grade, and I had a little sister who's a few years younger. We shared a room. My parents took us to this big furniture store in Phoenix. We lived in Prescott at the time, right before we moved to Kingman. And they bought us a new bedroom set that was white and bright yellow. Isn't that funny? And I just have the fondest memories of that bedroom set. I think because, it was a good time in my life. I was sharing a room with my sister. It was exciting to get this beautiful bedroom set. The yellow was gorgeous to me. And I've just always loved yellow ever since. So that's my theory. I also think, Claire, when we were laughing earlier, she says sunshiny and happiness. And I think that's actually partly true. Yellow is a very happy color. I will tell you what color I do not like.
Ooh.
I do not like purple. And my oldest daughter, Megan, that is her very favorite color. So when I have to shop for things in color, I have to shop for purple. So I do it out of love. But yellow is on my favorite end and purple is on my not favorite end.
Yeah, that's so funny because they are complements.
I know.
So you see them together all the time.
I have no idea, except maybe when I was in high school, one of our high school rivalries, their colors were purple and gold or purple and yellow. And I was at Kingman High and we were blue and gold. So maybe, all of your
green rivalry with that purple and gold.
All of our experiences in life and our likes and our memories are tied together. So that's probably part of it. Sorry, Lake Havasu.
All right. I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we can sit down and do this more. We're going to make the rounds with other administrators and things like that. But should be good. And again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this, and I'm excited to listen to the podcasts of other administrative coffee chats and learn more about my friends.
There are only a few upcoming events other than the 2 away games for football November 13th. Monday, November 16th will mark the release of Quarter 2 progress reports, and November 26th is a no-school day to observe Thanksgiving. And that's all we have for today. Thanks for listening to this episode of the KUSD podcast. To get even more news and information, check out our website at www.kusd.org. We are Kingman Unified. Talk to you next time.